Well, let's bring in three members of Parliament to talk about the latest developments in all of this today. And from the foyer of the Commons, I'm joined by James Bezan, the Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Defence. Paul Dewar is the Foreign Affairs Critic for the Official Opposition, NDP. And Marc Garneau fills that same role, Foreign Affairs Critic for the Liberal Party. Good to see you all, gentlemen.
Good to be here.
Thanks for joining me again tonight. Mr. Bezan, we know the current Canadian mission ends in Iraq October 4th. So will Parliament be told before that end date, which is just a week from Saturday, so about 8 or 9 days away here. Will Parliament be told before that end date what the Americans are in fact asking of Canada by way of an increasing role in Iraq?
Well, as you know, the Prime Minister did say that there has been a request. I haven't seen the letter and I don't know the contents, but I can assure you that as we come to the end of the 30-day deployment that started on September 5th, that we will be looking at all our options, including this request from the United States on the renewal of the mission. So we want to ensure that we are keeping everyone engaged, as we have been so far, by having Ministers Baird and Nicholson appear before committee, as well as answering questions as required in the House of Commons.
So when you say considering all options, that includes letting Parliament know what the ask has been?
I can tell you the one option that's not on the table is doing nothing. We can't sit idly by in dealing with ISIL. This is a huge threat, not just in Iraq and Syria, but it has the ability to expand and bring their terror and their brand of barbarism right here to North America.
Right, but in some ways it's what is on the table that parliamentarians want to know about, and that's I guess that's the debate, really, Mr. Bezan, is, and I know that I'm not sure what the answer is. There's good arguments both sides, I guess, about when is it time to tell people what an ally has asked you to do in a conflict as important as this one.
Well, this is a coalition of over 30 countries that's led by the United States, and you know, we're going to ensure that if the role changes in any way, that we'll keep everyone informed, as we have done in consultation with opposition leaders and opposition critics. And we want to make sure that everybody understands what our responsibilities are. As it is right now, we are providing those strategic and tactical advisors in northern Iraq, working alongside the Peshmerga and Iraqi military forces, as well as supplying over 583 tons of military and humanitarian supplies.
Mr. Dewar, what's wrong with that position?
Well, look, we are just not getting the straight goods, and you know, I mentioned on your program before, we weren't given the full facts from the beginning. And I note that, you know, in the summer it was, you know, we're going to be giving support for airlift for humanitarian assistance. Then it was about actually changing that into supporting the delivery of ammunition. Then it was a matter of when Mr. Garneau and I were on the ground in Iraq, we hear from Wales, the Prime Minister, make an announcement that we're actually going to send troops. And then how many, how long are they going to be there, what's the evaluation? We haven't been able to get straight answers, and I mentioned that before. And now we hear, as of yesterday, you know, the Prime Minister saying in New York, not in Ottawa, that we're going to be committing to something further. So it's gone from mission vagueness to mission creep to mission leap. And I have to ask right now, because I've just heard that, according to another news channel, that apparently we were the ones who asked the Americans what we can do, what if we can do anything. It wasn't the other way around. So I'd like some clarification from the government on that.
I'm getting to that. Do you know the answer to that, Mr. Bezan? Was it a phone call from Canada to the Americans saying, look, is there anything more we can do? And then the letter that the Prime Minister referred to yesterday followed that phone call?
Well, I'm not aware of the phone call. I'm only aware of the letter. And I can tell you that there has been conversations, as there has been with all coalition partners, as to how we can work together in trying to confront this ISIL threat. We're talking about a very barbaric organization that no one wants to see continue to not only kill and murder thousands of innocent ethnic and religious minorities throughout Iraq and Syria. So we have to look at what those options are and how we can best work together.
Mr. Garneau, would it be a surprise to you to find out, well, as part of a regular contact, Canada would have said to the Americans, let us know if there's anything else, and then this request by letter apparently would follow that?
No, I think it is a plausible scenario. I think two scenarios are plausible. I think Mr. Obama and Mr. Harper met each other in New York City, and Mr. Obama could have said, really thank you, Canada, for what you're doing. If you could do a little more, that would be great. Or the scenario that's just been brought up, possibly Mr. Harper saying, look, is there anything more we can do?
What's the problem if Canada said, let us know if there's anything else?
Well, the problem is that we're not getting straight goods. We're left with the impression that this was something we were asked to do by the Americans. The problem is the story changes every day, and we're talking about the most serious foreign policy issue that is in front of us right now, and we can't get the government to just answer straight questions. And that's why I have to reiterate here that we need to have a full debate and a vote on this. And that's why we've been the only party asking for that, because it's so important to actually find out what's going on here. And why is it acceptable to have our Prime Minister make these announcements, not here in the capital, not addressing Canadians like Mr. Obama addressed Americans, but it's somewhere else? This is also a question about accountability as much as it is about what we're doing. We believe we do have a role to play here, and that's the humanitarian piece, and that's so important.
I have to correct Paul a little bit. Our party actually asked for an emergency debate. And
without a vote. Though. That's
and the next day, the NDP had an opposition day with the possibility of a vote, and they chose to talk about
that's the government's role.
But just to finish what I'm trying to say, we actually accepted in principle that advisory role behind the combat lines for Canada initially, but we've made it very, very clear that if the role is going to change, Peter, we can also insist on a vote as well.
Let's.
Well, we're waiting for the details.
Okay, so how? I guess that's part of the question for the Liberals is, I guess, what do you want to know from the government about what's next? When do you want to know it? When do you want to know what's coming down the pipe before you decide if you're on side or not? Well, are you okay to wait till the end of the deadline and then be consulted then for what this request has been all about?
Hopefully it's going to happen sooner than
that.
If it doesn't? If the government, I asked a question today. I said, can the government tell us immediately what is being proposed that's going to expand our role today? I didn't get an answer from the defense minister, but we did ask that. And we also said that we would like to be consulted, because if we're going to expand that role to go after ISIS, we want to be consulted so that we have a say in the matter. So the question is it going to remain non-combat and just be expanded, or is it going to go into a combat role, which we definitely will not support?
Okay, so what we're getting here, Mr. Bezan, is a bit of a theme from your colleagues here. Should there be more debate in Parliament about where this is going, not just debate within the government?
Look, our tradition in government has been that every time that we have deployed in a combat role, there has been motions brought forward, confidence motions before the House, to ensure that Parliament was supportive of deploying our troops in a combat situation. As long as they are non-combat, similar to what we're doing right now with NATO through Operation Reassurance, we have the HMCS Toronto sitting in the Black Sea. We have a squadron of CF-18 fighter jets in the Baltics doing air policing, and we have troops on the ground in Poland in training and also as part of Operation Reassurance.
Well,
we don't vote on those types of deployments.
Of course you would.
And this is a non-combat role in Iraq as well.
So
if
CF-18s were to take part in airstrikes, would that be a combat role?
Definitely, if you're going to be dropping bombs, then you're in combat. That was the same in Libya. And so in Libya, we had a vote in the House. And so if this is going to move to that level of engagement, then I would expect that you will have a huge debate and consultation within the government process.
Okay.
That is something that we have to look at. And as we move forward to the end of this 30-day deployment, as we look at the request from the United States, and we look at what we're comfortable in doing, then we'll have those discussions with the opposition parties and determine the way forward.
Okay, let me switch gears here for a bit. Another big issue at the UN today was the issue of Ebola, the crisis in Africa. And Mr. Doer, let me start with you. $30 million more announced by Canada today. Canadian government, though, also somewhat critical of the lack of coordination of world agencies trying to help with this crisis. What do you think about Canada's position and Canada's support for dealing with this crisis in Africa? Is it stepping up to the plate here to your satisfaction?
No, I think, I'll be very frank, I think everyone's dropped the ball in this, and I think we should have been have a more rapid response. I mean, if we were able to, get munitions from, Albania to the north of Iraq, in a timely fashion, we should have been able to get those vaccines from Winnipeg to the west of Africa, which, as you know, and your listeners or your viewers will know, we actually have life-saving vaccines that we're hopefully going to get to the people on the ground, particularly healthcare workers.
Well, the government's saying it's ready to go, and saying the World Health Organization hasn't figured out how to get it there or who should get it.
Well, we should be, pushing that, and 6 weeks is not fast enough. We should have been doing that, and that's the hard work of actually getting in there, rolling up your sleeves and making sure that these things happen. We have capacity to do it. So critical on that, and the final thing is on DART. Médecins Sans Frontières asked that we deploy the DART. I think we should do that. We could do that, and I hope the government does that.
Okay, Mr. Garneau?
Well, I think everybody has been slow in responding to it. It's because it's one of these things that tends to grow exponentially. But having said that, I'm very glad that the government has stepped up to the plate and is now going to give $30 million, and it looks like those 800 to 1,000 vaccination medicines are going to get there.
Mr. Bezan, I'll give the final word to you here. I guess to two things: Mr. Doer's suggestion of the DART. Any chance that would be deployed, and how does this change things with the Canadian government putting up another $30 million today?
Well, I think the $30 million, taking our total commitment now to $35 million, is important. The 800 to 1,000 vaccines are available and ready to move. They've been ready for a while. We will work with our partners, the WHO, the MFS, and the International Red Cross, ensuring that we can do more in the areas of prevention, of treatment, and working with the whole social situation on the ground to try to stop the spread of Ebola. Already reported, 2,900 plus people have died, 6,300 currently infected, and that is a huge tragedy in itself, and one that I'm glad that we have taken such an action.
Is the government considering that request to send the DART team?
Look, that's a new request. It's something that's going to have to be looked at and considered.
It's been around for a little while.
All right. Well, we'll continue to follow this story as well. Gentlemen, appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you.
Take care.
Pete.